Tomorrow, Tuesday, St. James's Park, Newcastle continue to defend their League Cup uh, champion status versus Fulham. But will they remain the reigning, defending League Cup champions? Find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Share. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Fabian Share
All right, folks. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all blessed. I had a little bit of a funny one with my mic, but do let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me well, and that everything is well with you. Hopefully the sound is clear. Hopefully the camera is clear and everything else. But look, we're here. We're blessed. It's always a blessing to be able to do yet another match preview with you guys. So I hope you guys are blessed. Do let me know in the chat where you guys are listening from, what you're doing. Are you on your way to work? Are you about to go to sleep? Are you waking up? Whatever it is that you're doing. You could have been anywhere here in the world, but you're right here with me on Toon Tactics TV. It's a blessing to be with you guys. So on tonight's show, we are going to review the Sunderland game, the 1-0 loss to Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. And obviously, there's been a bit of fallout online anyway from that defeat itself. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Talked a little bit about it yesterday, but obviously yesterday was more of a focus on the transfers and everything else. So we'll have a little bit of more in-depth conversation about it. What I think went wrong, especially kind of taking notes from Eddie Howe's press conference. And then we'll do the match preview for the Fulham game. And that's what we've got to focus on, really, because getting into that semi-final is very, very, very important. I just watched Chelsea versus Cardiff City, where Chelsea won 3-1. They're now in the semi-finals, Chelsea, and that's where I want to be right now, progressing into the semi-finals. Cardiff gave a really, really good account of themselves. They've played some really, really good football. It's not a surprise that they're currently first in the League One as well. So do look out for them and kind of going forward as well. But without further ado, let's talk about and let's discuss the loss to Sunderland, and I want to get you guys' opinions. I want to get you guys' thoughts about what you think went wrong. Let's have a butchers at the overall stats. Some of them have already been well publicized in terms of our XG, which was close to non-existent, as was Sunderland's. But I want to, once we do that, I want to focus on our front line after we do that, because I do think, in my opinion, that's where the main areas of contention were, the main areas where we've had our issues were. But do let me know what you guys think, what you guys' opinion was. First of all, let me make sure you guys can see this. Yes, you can. Okay, so first of all, lineups, obviously. Lineups. Let me know if you guys were, if this was the lineup that you would have chosen, if you had any surprises. What is your thoughts? For me, I want to say, so front line, obviously we've got Mr. Let me take, I can never say the adverts off, but fine, whatever. We set up in a 4-3-3 technically on paper. And our front line, obviously, Gordon and Voltemada in the Elanga. That is a front line that I advocated for going forward. And then the midfield of Tonali, Bruno, and Miley, who a lot of us obviously wanted to start after his heroics against Leverkusen. And he was well deserved to continue playing, and Joe Linton to remain on the bench. And the back line sort of picked itself. Obviously, Dan Burn, who we now know is off for 6 weeks after damaging his ribs in that tackle. I think, not Siddiqui, I forgot the gentleman that he had a collision with. And I think he possibly punched his lung. He had some trouble breathing. So God bless Dan Burn. I pray all healing for him, and hopefully he returns sooner rather than later. But Dan Burn, Malik Chow, Livramento Hall in our backline, and Mr. Ramsdale in the backline. So really, we pretty much got the I would say the first team that we wanted, right? And our bench, if we just started the game in terms of Wisser, Joe Barnes, Joe Linton on the bench, Jacob Ramsey, we had a good bench in terms of in terms of depth, and that's obviously our depth is what we discussed. And overlooking the attacking momentum of the game, we say attacking momentum. It wasn't from both sides, really. Sunderland more or less dominated the first half. I still haven't had a chance to see the second half, guys. It's crazy. But as I was in church, so I'll be really keen to see what you guys thought of it. But just looking at over the stats, attacking momentum wise, it looked like that we had most of the ball. But obviously, from what we can see in the XG, we didn't produce much from it. We'll come back to the heat maps and average positions in a moment, but yeah, here is the XG for both teams. In the end, we ended up having most of the possession. We had 0.24 XG. Someone had 0.3. I think it's the lowest XG, combined XG for a game in the Premier League this season. So that tells you a lot. We had 6 shots. They had 5. Our goalkeeper had to make 1 save. Their goalkeeper had to make 2. Tackles. It looked like Sunderland concentrate most of their flank play from the right side and central left, but mainly from the right side. As for us, we were down our left side, Hall, Gordon, and others that were there, but otherwise nothing further from there. Sunderland had 1 big chance missed. We had none. They had 15 touches in our box. We had 14, so minimal time spent for both teams in each other's halves. 50-50 on the duels won. They shaded the ground duels. We're equal on the aerial duels, which is crazy. Both teams just reflected each other a lot. They had a little bit more of the dribbles, but in terms of successful dribbles, although they attempted less. So it's like a reflection of each other. Like this was always going to be a game where either a mistake, obviously what happened with Baltimore, or something really, really special, a quality that that wasn't going to be foreseen in the game was always going to happen. So on this occasion, it certainly was a mistake. God bless you, Adrian. Good to see you, even to you, sir. Passes into the final third, which is a bigger issue. 71% of our passes were in the final third. 64 for Sunderland. Crosses minimal. 2 our 26 were successful. 2 out of their 14s were successful. It's interesting that goals prevented, their goalkeeper prevented potentially 0.29 goals, whereas ours did minus 0.76. Indicating that ours should have saved, that Ramsdale should have saved that. I don't know. That looked like a bullet out of nowhere. I think that's a bit harsh on Ramsdale there, but you guys let me know what you think. Look, overall, in terms of stats, there isn't much to kind of, especially with the XG. We're going to focus on the XG because I want to look at our front line. Now, Eddie Howe commented in the press conference that he's set up in the same way. The same way he set up against Everton, where we won 4-1, is the same way he set up against Sunderland. However, the difference being our front line. He felt that out of possession, we were far better, and this is against Sunderland, than we were in possession, and his main area of concern or his main area of interest was our attack or the lack of. There's kind of I know, and this kind of correlates a little bit. I know that Mr. Bruno Gomes said a lot of things, but Bruno did mention in his kind of review of the game afterwards when they interviewed him, where he was saying we weren't doing no shooting, we were not doing no crossing, we weren't doing any of that, and he's right. We weren't doing much of crossing or shooting whatsoever. And but those are attacking. Those are all part of the attack, right? So what happened to our attack essentially? And we're going to look at that we're going to look at that now, and then we're going to go back to Opta Analyst because I want to look at some of the passing maps, and I'm going to compare it to the Tottenham game to kind of use it as a because that the reference point that Howe talked about. Good evening to you, Aaron. Good to see you as always. God bless you. Evening, Philip. Hope you're well. If anyone has seen Eddie's presser, it's a bad watch. Well, let's talk about the presser. You do talk about it. For me, I watched it, I listened to it, and I think for me, um, obviously the press conferences are led by the journalists. They ask the questions, and there wasn't much concentration or focus on, hey, we've got a quarter final against Fulham. Are you excited about possibly being in your third semi-final in 4 years? How important is this game? There was a big focus on obviously the loss to Sunderland, which is fair enough. But it's for me, yes, it was a bad watch because it was all kind of leaning towards that. I think Eddie Howe towards the end did comment and say, like, this is a little bit, we're kind of overly negative or focused on things, and um we're about to go into a quarterfinal, hopefully get into the semi-final. We are still in the Champions League with a shout of getting automatic promotion, certainly playoff position. We're in all four competitions. We're about 4 or 5 points away from Champions League spot. There is those elements, those key features. And I've seen a lot of snippets and comments from journalists and other people taken from what Howe said, stuff like around Lascelles, that Eddie Howe misses Lascelles, which is nothing of the fact that what Eddie Howe was saying about Lascelles, more or less that he's missing, but also that he's missing and just their presence would be good, not necessarily on the pitch. But even then, you can't expect Howe to just slate one of his players in the public like that. For what reason? Lascelles has nothing to do with what happened on against Sunderland, right? So yeah, I don't know what people are expecting from Howe in those areas. I do think Howe was more. It's the first time I heard Howe mention and say there has been times when he's put out a team where he's not quite sure after the game whether they gave their all. That's the first time I've ever heard him say anything like that. He didn't give any names. He didn't say about who. But it is really, really interesting. And what that says to me is he's spoke enough to these players in private. He's spoken enough to these players in private, whoever they are. And it's more not having the effect that he wants, probably inconsistency. And now, without obviously dragging them out, he's making it publicly known as well. So we'll see where that leads us in terms of going forward. Hopefully, it has the desired effect. But yeah, overall, obviously the questions are overly focused on the Sunderland game. I do think, in my opinion, people are losing sight of where we are in the season, and that's not losing sight of some of our games have not been great. Sunderland, Brentford, West Ham all fit that category. But there's also, for all those games, there was Leverkusen, there was Man City, there was Benfica, there was, going from the top of my head now, but a number of other games where we done well. And so it's important not to forget that in terms of going forward. And like I said, we're on all four competitions. Like, we're in a good place in terms of competitions wise. We're not out of it. It's still really, really close. and we have a decent squad, a decent team. So that's where I take it from. But yeah, I'm going to go back to the attack in a moment. We're going to look at average positions, but just reading the comments as well. But like I said, in terms of that, I'm going to focus on a little bit on our attack. We're going to go to the part after this. I'm going to go to the pass maps and compare it to the. I'm going to look to the average positions of the. So this is the average positions to the Sunderland game. I'm going to go look at the average positions for the Everton game. As Howe said, he set up the team the same way against Everton as he did against Sunderland, and the difference being the attack. So I'm going to lead. I'm going to put my line of inquiry, my examination through that way as well. But as always, guys, do obviously your context, your nuance, your views are going to be so important. And remember, folks, as always, you always do like, share, and subscribe, guys, and leave a comment as well on the YouTube. Aaron says his comments were baffling, to be honest. Even agreeing with what 90% of what our captain said, it was very worrying, to be honest, because Bruno was spot on in his analysis. Well, let me know, Aaron, in terms of why it was worrying. I think that he said that he's 90% of it, and the 10% of it he wasn't agreeing with was quite crucial, because he felt that out of possession, in particular in our defensive work, we were good. It's the other 10%, which is the attack, and Bruno talked about that. Shooting, scoring, shooting, crossing was non evident, and you can see that in the stats. But let me know what your thoughts were. Lomino, good to see. I haven't seen you for a while. God bless you. Ian Philip, does Eddie Howe deserve to get sacked if we lose tomorrow? No, I don't think he does. After we spent 750 million on Eddie Howe squad, how come we can't string two passes together, man? Where is the creativity? Great question. I would say, though, nobody was saying this when we beat Everton 4-1 away. Nobody was saying where was the creativity when we drew 2-2 with Leverkusen, or saying this when we beat Man City 2-1. And so I think it's important to have some balance. And I think the frustration, though, equally, though, Lomino, is that Eddie Howe said this, Bruno says this, is the consistency or the lack of consistency in what we're doing. And I'm going to talk about, even when I kind of do a preview for the Fulham game, I looked at Opta Analyst, how our Opta Analyst looks at Newcastle in terms of data and everything else. And it's going to be quite interesting as well from what it's saying. So you're right about the creativity. Where is the creativity? Is that down to Howe, or is that down to the players? Howe says he set up the team, and going back to this, as he did against Everton, and we won 4-1. The difference being, though, the attack itself. So, but let me know your thoughts on that. Let me know. All right, so back to the game, Sunderland. So this is us in the blue. Obviously, Sunderland are on the left here. I didn't speak enough about Sunderland, but obviously they set up in a 4-2-3-1. They remained pretty controlled. They were worried about us getting in behind, and the fact that we were giving them possession, they didn't really like very much. But you can see them setting up really much, very structured in the white here at Sunderland in the mid block. As for us, it's just average position. You have to be careful with average positions, obviously, where you are in the first half, second half, the game state, and everything else. But obviously, Dan Burnley he came off. So where's Fabian Shaw? Is he here? What number is Fabian Shaw? Is he 5? Yeah. So that's where he was most of the game. And I think Malik Chow. Where art thou, Mr. Chow? Was here. So we were in a 4-3-3 in our typical kind of when we're attacking, or 3-3-4 when we're kind of attacking. 4-5-1, 5-4-1 when we're out of possession. And I know people hate that a lot, but that's where we were. So with the back 4 there, kind of average positions with our main midfield 3 in the midfield. Lewis Miley, you can see here, taking up positions on the left side where Joe Linton would typically be. Joe Willock, obviously, later on came on. And just one moment, sorry. Yeah, so Willock came on. Willock must have come on for Tonali. Where is Tonali? Taking up position. So let me just focus on the attack first, because that's what I want to look at. That's Eddie Howe says that was the main area of concern. Like I said, both teams didn't produce much in the way of going forward. So Jacob Murphy came on very light in terms of the penalty area. Let me first see where our fullbacks. So our fullbacks are doing their job. Livramento is spending time in the opposition half. Obviously, he's having to do some time defending, but he's spending a lot of time in the opposition half, which means our right wing forward, who would have been the Langer and Jacob Murphy, should be spending a lot of time in the opposition half, which they do, but very faint in terms of the what do you call it? In terms of the penalty box itself. So that's Jacob Murphy. Where's Langer? I know Langer's not being loved by the fans at the moment. Where is Elanga? He started the game. Why am I not seeing Elanga, guys? What number is Elanga? Why can I not see Elanga? That's Jacob. That's Barnes. Willock. Shaw. Why is Elanga not on here? Okay, for some reason I can't find Elanga. But our fullbacks are doing their job, which allows our forwards to press up. Lewis Hall as well, a little bit more time in his own half, but again, good heat maps in the opposition half. And that side, on Lewis Hall's side, is obviously Barnes, who later came on. But the first of all, why can I not get where's, because I wanted to see Gordon's. Okay, so why am I not seeing these guys' stats? Let me see if I can get them here. Okay, good. Let me do it this way. Let me do it this way. So Elanga's here. So can you guys see that? Yeah, you can. So yeah, Elanga's mainly just over the centre half. Hardly any time at all in the opposition half. In terms of not in the opposition penalty box. Why? Because I don't understand why. Because Livramento, he's done his job. He's pushing up. He's making his chances. Elanga played 59 minutes. He had 27 touches. He offered literally 0.01 in expected assists. Obviously, which is not good reading. 27 touches, attempted dribbles 2, 0, 0 that were successful, which is incredible. Accurate passes, 68%. Position passes in the opposition half, 71% were successful. He had one long ball, 0 out of 4 ground duels won, 0 out of 2 aerial duels won. He did have 3 recoveries, so very, very, like, basically not even very little, like pretty much non-existent in terms of attack. Voltemada, I have a little bit more grace for Voltemada, but again, he spent minimal time in the penalty area. But we'll talk about the midfield if they actually made any runs for him. So he too had 0.02 expected goals, incredible, with 1 shot. He had 12 touches all game. He played 70. Did he play 75 minutes, something like that? He played 75 minutes. Now, Voltemada, you guys would have seen yesterday. He's been playing. He's one of our high dependency players. He played a lot of games, and he's already got like 7-8 goal contributions so far this season. So I'm going to have a little bit more grace for Voltemada compared to perhaps Elanga. But his passing wasn't great. Accurate passes 33%. Passes in the opposition half 25%. Passes in his own half, again, very low. 2 out of 8 aerial duels won. 0 out of 2 ground duels won. That's phenomenal stuff. Phenomenally bad. Gordon, who was substitute in the 59th minute, 0 goals, 0 assists, 0.01 again expected assists. So literally all our front forwards are on 0.01 expected assists, expected goals. It's all very limited, all below 30 touches. Gordon got 22 touches. He had, though, to his credit, 2 out of 3 successful dribbles. 58% accurate passes, 50% accurate passes in the opposition half. 1 out of 2 successful long balls, a couple clearances, 0 crosses. He made 0 crosses all game. Gordon had 0 crosses all game. Nick Voltemada, you don't expect him necessarily to have crosses, but he had 0 crosses as well all game. What did Elanga have? I assume he had 0 crosses all game as well. Elanga had 1 attempt to cross all game. So some horrific stuff from our front line. Let me just quickly see if our midfield, to help Voltemada, were making runs. So Sandro Tonali at 59th minute, mainly in our own half, but as you can see from the heat map on the right and the left, he was in and around Voltemada, but nowhere near the penalty box. You can forgive him a little bit, though. You're going to see a difference in the Everton game, for sure. But he spends very little time there. But in terms of what Eddie's saying, in terms of what our midfield is doing, if you look at his accurate passes, 96% accurate passes, 92% passes in the opposition half, 92%, and passes in his own half, 100%. So his passing from Tonali was good. He played how many minutes? 59 minutes as well before he was taken off, with 38 touches of the ball. And he did his thing. 4 out of 6 ground duels won, 1 out of 1 aerial duels won. So for a midfield, is the offensive side, in terms of heat maps in the opposition half, not very good. But everything else, he's doing the job of a midfielder. So that goes with the narrative of what Eddie Howe was saying. Let's see Bruno Gomes, our captain. He played 90 minutes yet again. Let's just go back quickly because I went forward. Make sure you guys can see that. I'm going to go to the chats in a moment. And for those that don't know, I'm just focusing on our attack, but I'm just because I'm going with the kind of understanding to see what we're doing off the ball, if it was good, as Eddie Howe says, and was it our offense? Was it our attack? So far, it's proven to be absolutely correct. All 3 of our first team attack, first players, Elanga, Voltemada, and Gordon, had 0.01s expected assists, for instance. Only one of them had an attempted cross. That was Elanga. Some phenomenally bad stats from all of them. No dribbles, no crosses, like 1 shot between them. Unbelievable. So you look at Bruno Gomes' heat map, right? Spends a lot of time in at least in that half space on the right hand side, doing his job, and at least in front of the penalty area. No heat maps in the opposition half. Fine. Not fine, but again, he's a midfielder. You got 3 front players that you need to be doing some work around that. He does his work there. I would suspect he's around Voltemada there. We'll look at the Opta analyst in a moment to talk about that there. But he's doing his job, in my opinion, from at least moving around the pitch. Could he do a little bit more runs beyond Voltemada? Yes. Crosses, at least he's got 4 attempted crosses. 1 of them was successful. So he's got more attempted crosses than Elanga, Voltemada, and Gordon put together. This is why he's annoyed. 86% accurate passes, 44 out of 51. Already 1 key pass that led to a shot. Passes in the opposition half, 82%. So he's doing his own job, as well as being tied in his own half of 94% accurate passes. 3 out of 5 long balls that were accurate, 60%. He had total of 2 shots. So again, more shots than all of our front line combined. He had 75 touches of the ball. Again, more touches than all of our front 3 combined. I don't know how this got 1 out of 2 tackles. I'm surprised about that, but fine. Clearances, he made 6 clearances, and recoveries, he made 3. 5 out of 6 ground duels won, and 1 out of 3. So, not stellar performance, but he's doing his job. Lewis Miley, you can see his heat map here on the left and right side. Lewis Miley did spend time in the opposition box, so making runs in beyond Voltemada. Spent very little time actually, or minimal time in his own half, in our own half, and was getting into advanced areas. Maybe that was part of the plan, really, before Willett came on. So Mr. Miley 0.12 expected goals, very low, but higher than all of our front line combined, right? At least Louis Miley attempted three crosses. Zero of them were successful, but he attempted more than our front three combined. Accurate passes, 93%, so keeping possession. Passes into the opposition half, 88% accuracy, 15 out of 17. So it's getting in the opposition half. And it passed in his own half, 100% accuracy. So our midfield of Miley, Tonali, and Bruno Gomes, for the most part, as what Eddie Howe was saying, were doing their job. You can criticize a bit in terms of running beyond Voltamada, fine, for sure. But they were doing their jobs in terms of tackling, tackles 1, 2 out of 2, recoveries made, one recovery challenge, 4 out of 5 ground duels won, 1 out of 3 aerial duels won. A little bit more would have been better for him. But otherwise, dribble successful, 2 out of 2. He's doing his job. He's doing his job. Our fullbacks were doing their job. Everybody else was doing their job apart from our front apart from our front three. So let's quickly look at the Everton, what we did against Everton, because again, that's what Eddie Howe was talking about. What happened against Everton, to kind of compare. So Eddie Howe says he set up Newcastle the same way he set up Everton against Everton. He set up Newcastle in the same way. Now obviously there's a change in personnel. I'm going to go to the chat in a moment, but excuse me, folks. There's two main changes in the personnel, though, right? And that is that Barnes played instead of Gordon, and Joe Linton played instead of Miley played as well. Miley Gomes played, so Joe Linton played instead of Tonali. I think that were the main changes in that game. Now, in this game, our front three did do their jobs. Elanga got an assist, Voltamada got a goal. Barnes didn't get anything, but he was involved. And what was Eddie Howe saying in terms of, if you just compare that to them, to here, this is Elanga's heat map. Now, not overly, very faint in the penalty box, but more than what he did against Sunderland. Staying on that right hand side, let me just see what Livramento was doing behind him. Was Livramento providing him support? Tons of support. In fact, Livramento was even more advanced than Elanga was in this game, right? So again, it matters and it doesn't matter, because in terms of how they set up their patterns of play, sometimes has an effect on who gets into the box and who doesn't. But fine, the Elanga's heat map is a little bit is much improved compared to what it did against Sunderland. His expected goals were low, but fine. Expected goals on target 0.17. He had 43 touches in the game. He played longer though. He played about 75 minutes, something like that. Again, passes were better. Passing opposition were better. Passing his own half were better. Let me see what he did in terms of offensively. I thought he did his ground duels. He did his aerial duels. He attempted at least Elanga, goodness gracious. He attempted one cross. He did get an assist. Fine. Wasn't overly impressive, but passes in the opposition half, 74%. Voltamada obviously scored, and I think he got an assist, or he scored for sure, had a better game, spent a lot of time in the opposition half. You can see there in the box, big red heat maps in the opposition box. So that's already an improvement. Expected goals, 0.73. Dribbles, 2 out of 4 successful. 76% passing in his own half and in the opposition half. So really, really good in terms of that. So the hold-up play was better. Barnes, you can see here, spent way more time in the opposition box. Well, Barnes wasn't involved in the Sunderland game, to be fair to him, but he did have a better game. But the front three were working. They were making attempts. They were doing their stuff, is what we're basically saying. Let's see if just for in terms of our midfield, were they making runs beyond Voltamada? We know the fullbacks were doing their job. So Lewis Hall, we saw Livramento. Lewis Hall did what he did exactly against Sunderland, making runs, spending time in the opposition box and doing his duty. as did Mr. Livramento did his job, spending time in the opposition box, pushing up, giving support to our attackers. This is against Everton. He did the same thing at Sunderland. If you look at the heat maps, let's see what Miley did. He obviously got the goal. Miley did similar, a bit obviously spending more time on the right-hand side though in this game, very faint in the penalty box, but he got a goal in this game as well and spending lots of time in the opposition half at least, in and around Mr. Voldemort himself. Again, Miley's passings, 2 key passes in this game, created 1 big chance, 96% accuracy overall in the game, 92% accuracy in the opposition half, similar to Sunderland, and passes in his own half, again, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. So Miley did his job more or less the same way as he did 8 recoveries as well, as he did against Sunderland. If you're just looking at this data, right? You guys can comment on what in terms of the game itself. Bruno again against Everton. This is against Everton. Spent time in his own half, but again in and around here in that final third bit, in that half space around Voldemort as he was against Sunderland. In and around there, and doing his doing what he does. He at least had 1 successful cross, accurate passes, doing his job, and getting on the ball, 90 touches, interceptions, blocks, ground duels 2 out of 5, a little bit less than usual, but fine. Doing his job. This is the frustration. And finally, Joe Linton, who gets a lot of stick at the moment, doing his job, covering and protecting that left-hand side, that left half space in our half when Mr. Hall is making his advanced runs, but also getting around Voldemort in the half space next to Voldemort here, making sure he's around him. This is Mr. Joe Linton's stats. What did he do? Accurate passes. He gets a lot of stick for his passing, but he had 96% passing. Possession passes in the opposition half. 95% of passes in the opposition half were accurate. Long balls accurate, 100%, 96% passes. He had 1 total shot, 57 touches. 1 of 1 tackles won. It was more than that. I don't know how they do this tackles, but fine, whatever. He had 2 out of 6 ground duels, and that's where he fainted a little bit. And 1 out of 3 aerial duels, right? But more or less, in fact, if anything, our midfield, probably on the physicality level, did more against Sunderland than they did against Everton, but obviously spent a little bit more time in the opposition half. But our front line for Sunderland was absolutely dire. So let me just get back to this to the Sunderland game in a moment. So that's what Eddie Howe was talking about. So let's just go to I'm going to go to the thingy in a moment to the chat. So let's see what was happening in terms of our passing patterns in the moment as well against Sunderland. I'm going to read the chats in a moment. For whatever so I guess what I'm saying at this point, our midfield, our fullbacks who are key to our attack, from my perspective and looking at the data and a bit of what I saw in the first half, though admittedly, what Eddie Howe was saying is, especially off the ball, and especially in terms of in possession in our own half at least, were doing their jobs. Because the midfield have done more in terms of running beyond Voldemort, 1,000%. But the fullbacks were doing that. And Elanga and Mr. Gordon were super duper ineffective in this game, which added to Voldemort being ineffective in this game as well. Where is it? Sunderland. All right, so let me just set it up first and then I'll go to the chats. But let me know what you guys think. Maybe you guys see it a little bit differently. And then we'll go and we'll preview the game in a moment. Passing map. Here we go. There you are. All right. So let me see what you guys are saying in the chats. How you guys are seeing this. Aaron says, Bruno said we was a mess and Eddie referred to the structure. For me, the structure wasn't great in terms of a derby and showing ambition. A 4-5-1 mid for low block in a derby is criminal to me. Okay, so fair enough. You don't like the setup. It was the same setup according to Eddie Howe, and it's proven to be correct. It was the same setup against Everton when we won 4-1. There was no ambition. First shot came in the 60th minute. Yeah, it's been horrendous from the defensive point of view, and the structure meant we were pinned back into our own third. We cannot continue to sit back as we have. We need possession-based manager. But we just read the stats for our mid. I would argue that we read the stats for our midfield, who've been holding possession fairly accurately. Our fullbacks are pushing up and doing their jobs, and our front line are actually doing nothing in terms of any offensive output. I don't know. I don't. I don't. I'm not seeing it as that at the moment. But there are. I see what you're saying in terms of maybe you want to see a little bit more, and we're going to talk about it actually for the Fulham game. Aaron says we could justify the 4-5-1 structure with Trips and Burn in the fullback position, but you have Tino and Hall now. Show him some ambition. What happened to our 4-4-2 out of possession? I miss it. Aaron doesn't. I do think our build up is not good considering the players we have. Instead of sitting back to conserve energy, we should be controlling the ball like a top side, make the opposition work. Lomino says, not great when we have the ball, nor are we pressing like we used to. Most of our games besides two have been horrible. It's time for a change. Get me De Zerbi, man, his style with St. James's Park still good. Also, you guys are looking for a change. Okay, but De Zerbi needs De Zerbi type players, which we don't have. Aaron says, I do think this team is outgrowing Eddie. Really? There is no identity, and he clearly can't handle 2 out of 3 games a week. The next stage for me is possession-based manager with some European pedigree. Before Sunderland, okay. Let me see this. Keeping in mind when we're saying free, he's not handling it right. We're still in all 4 competitions. And we have a chance of qualifying in the Champions League. So before Sunderland, we drew 2-2 at Leverkusen. 2 days before that, we beat Burnley. 2 days before that, 3 days before that, we drew 2-2 with Tottenham. Tottenham were lucky to escape with their lives. We beat Everton away. We were unlucky to lose to Marseille 2-1 away. Again, good performances. And we beat Manchester City 2-1, which was a really, really good performance before that. Obviously, prior to that, we had awful performance against Brentford and West Ham. In the middle of that, a great performance against Club Athletic. He's not perfect, Eddie Howe, and he's going to make mistakes, but he's getting better at it. And along the lines, the team's going to make mistakes. For me, and what I'm reading of the stats, if your front 3 players between them are not crossing the ball, are not shooting, are not dribbling, are not getting into the penalty box, I'm not sure what Eddie can do. So it says, Aaron says, management tactics, subs, and recruitment need more technical ability rather than runners to maintain the ball and link the play. I think Bruno's technical, Tonali's technical, Malik Chow's technical, Botman's technical, Voltamada's technical. I'm not saying we're exactly Man City, but we have something. The 4-5-1 structure doesn't work. It worked against Everton. It worked against Man City. When we are pinned back, of our wingers get pinned back, but our wingers weren't pinned back against Sunderland. We saw the heat maps. I'll only say that. I'm only going to push back a little bit because I'm reading the heat maps and I'm seeing it. They weren't pushed back against Sunderland. Lomino says Eddie built a squad full of runners. Not true. I don't think so. No technical ability. What we saw ever. No wonder our wingers can't beat anyone. We will never become a top team when his style and players are his backwards. Okay, the 4-5-1 doesn't work for us. When we are pinned back, our wingers get pinned back. Voltamada is isolated. There's no way to progress up the pitch. Part of that was a setup against Everton was very, very similar though. And it was the idea was to be able to get the ball off um, uh, to get the ball to get the ball and make runs in behind, which nobody from our team were doing. You just saw the heat maps from our front three; they were not doing that. I don't know what Eddie Howe can do at that stage, in my opinion. But going back to, I wanted to show and talk about uh, this is the passing map versus Sunderland. Now, this is Sunderland's. This is what Sunderland were doing. And for those that aren't familiar with the passing map, it shows us the frequency of passing between. Why does it keep on highlighting between players? And you can see patterns of play with it. So the thicker the lines, the more frequency of play or passing between those players, right? So let's go on to Newcastle. On the thinner the lines, or even no existent lines, essentially the thinner the line, the less frequency of passing. So we can see, for instance, between Chow and Ramsdale, but this is throughout the Sunderland game, there was 22 passes between them. 13 from those 22 passes were from Ramsdale to Chow, so obviously going forward. The main worry already is, I can see here, is the lack of actual pass patterns of play whatsoever. Gordon is here. His average position is here in our own half. I don't know why he's so much in our own half and he's not making any runs. Hall is right next to Gordon. Hall is pushing up. Hall is doing his thing. Why Gordon is attached to him, I have no idea. Why he's not pushing up, I don't know. You can see the setup here of Tonali in between between the players. So he's adding that screen in that play. So he's doing his thing. Livramento is pushing up. He's pushed up here in his average position. Ilanga's right next to him. I don't know why. At least Ilanga's beyond the halfway line, but he's just there crowded out. He's not making any. He's not doing anything. So the ball's getting up there. Livramento gets the pass, but he's having to. There's 22 passes between Livramento and Chow. Livramento and Bruno Gomes. 7 passes between Livramento and Miley, but there's no one. They're not making any. Ilanga's not making any runs forward, so we can't do any passing patterns on the flanks. There's nothing going forward whatsoever at all. That's Miley. And as you guys can see, there's literally nothing going towards Voltemada, who's right next to Miley. So at least Miley's next to Voltemada. But there's nothing in beyond that. So our passing patterns, whatever they are, they're very much within our own half. So Ramsdale, Chow, Hall, and essentially, and a little bit of Burn. That's where it stops because Gordon isn't moving forward. Livramento with Bruno, with Ramsdale, with a little bit less with Tonali, and it stops because Ilanga's not going forward. I have no idea why he's not going forward. At least Miley's further than Gordon and Ilanga. He can't pass it forward because there's no one there. Why they're not pushing forward, I have no idea. Let's compare that to the Everton game. We just looked at the Everton heat maps. Let's see what we did against Everton when we won 4-1. I'm going to keep going back to Everton because Howe referenced that in terms of, he said himself, I set up against Sunderland in the same way as I set up against Everton. And so far, it's proven to be the case. Where is it? Sunderland 1-0. Make sure you guys can see that still. Otherwise, it'll be annoying. Yeah, you can. So okay, so let's go to the Everton game. What did Howe do? So this is the Everton game. Make sure you guys can see that. Where is it? Here we go. So Everton. Passing map, please. Everton were the home team. Okay. So Make sure you guys can see that. Are you guys still looking at the? I think you guys are still looking at the Sunderland game. Uh, Share this tab instead. Can tell I'm old. Here we go. Right. So this is us against. So this is us against Everton. There's some big differences here. You can see some big, thick patterns of lines, very much changing, and you can see already our furthest players are Elanga, further than anybody on his right hand side, Voltemada further than anybody on his through the central areas, and Barnes this time. Obviously, Gordon didn't play, further than anybody on their side as well. And you can see the patterns of play, the triangles between them. Hall pushed up as he did against Everton, as he did against Sunderland. Hall's pushed up. Joe Linton's pushed up, and you can see this triangle of play between them, especially with Hall. 16 passes between Barnes and Hall, 6 passes between Barnes and Joe Linton, 5 passes between Barnes and Voltemade in the Everton game. The very same game when we won 4-1. And all these front three are in advanced areas. Hall's pushed up as he did against Sunderland. Livermento's pushed up as he did against Sunderland as well. He's there as well. And you can see the same patterns of play here. In fact, even better, really, because Livermento and Chow are connecting. 21 passes between them, mainly with Chow passing to Livermento 13 times at a time as well. I think Chow also made passes to Elanga, 6 passes between them. And between Livermento and Elanga, 17 passes between the two of them, connecting with Elanga in the advanced areas there. And when Elanga pushes up a little bit more, he gets passes. He got 6 passes from. He had passing. He was connected to Livermento. Set 17 between him and Livermento, 6 between him and Chow, 7 between him and Miley, 6 between him and Bruno Gomes, 6 between him and Joe Linton, 4 between him and Voltemada. And you can see the patterns of play. They've just pushed up. You can see, we saw the heat map. They were in advanced areas. Voltemada in advanced areas, spending time in the penalty box. 7 passes between him and between Voltemada and Bruno. 4 passes between Elanga and Voltemada. 5 passes between Voltemada and Barnes. Barnes is connected, as mentioned, with Hall, with Joe Linton. There's a clear difference. This is going back to this is Everton. Guys, can you guys see that? Can you see the part? This is going back to Everton. Can you see where our front line is? It's collapsed. I have no idea why. I don't know why. I don't know why. From our fullbacks, they're doing their jobs. Going back to this is Everton again. Livermento's up there. Hall's back is up there in the halfway lines. 21 and 3. Going back to the Everton game, Hall's pushing up. He's up there. He's a little bit further behind because Gordon is right next to him for whatever reason in his own half. But he's further up. Livermento's further up. He's doing his job. Right? Miley's pushing up. Bruno's pushing up. He's in the centre half. Tonali's having to drop back and defend and screen with Chow because our forwards won't go forward for whatever reason. And this is back to the Everton game. Chow and Byrne are the last two, with Miley and Bruno in our own half, the screening. Whereas in the Sunderland game, they were further up because our front line was just collapsed in on itself. And they had no outlet. Whereas you can see the triangles, you can see the thick lines through the centre half, you can see the connections. So for me, our front line collapsed in on itself against Sunderland. They were non-existent. I don't know why. Our setup was fairly, and I agree with Howe on this one. Our setup was fairly the same. We saw the individual stats for our midfielders. In possession, they were generally okay. But when we say, they're not being creative, they're not doing enough, how can we be creative? This is back to Sunderland. How can we be creative when Gordon is in his own half, attached to Hall? How can we be creative when Elanga is in his own half? And we know that he spent no time in the penalty box. He had, and between all of them, between Voltemada, Elanga, all them guys, Elanga, Gordon in the Sunderland game, no crosses, no shots, or like one between them. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know what uh, if there's a setup or a formation or what you can do when your front line isn't front lining. They're not going, they're not pushing up. I don't know why. So for me, it's a player thing. It's a consistency thing. I don't, it's going to be interesting to see who Eddie Howe. I have a little bit more grace for Voltemada because he's played incredibly a lot of games. He's probably going to play against Fulham as well. And we have to learn from this. It's going to be interesting to see, does Elanga continue to play? If Murphy's got an knee injury, maybe not. It's interesting that we've had a link to Magnus Akliouche recently. I know it's Indicala, but we talked about yesterday, we need the first half forward. Magnus Akliouche has been linked to us for over a year, nearly 2 years now, maybe 3 actually. Barnes possibly comes back in. So we talked about Fulham, but let me know what you guys are saying. Quiet in the chat. Nobody's saying anything. I hope I haven't. I don't know. I'm worried about my own. Maybe I'm not worried, but like maybe I'm a bit more. Yeah, Aaron says we should have signed the clip. Yeah, possibly. I think it's too early to tell from that. And I know I'm not over flattering on Elanga at the moment. Elanga had a decent game against Everton. He had a decent game against Burnley. Gordon had it in the second half against Leverkusen was phenomenal. First half, geez Louise, help me, right? So you guys let me know. We have the front line has to step up because for me, our fullbacks are doing their thing, our defense are doing their thing, our midfield can only do so much. When people are saying be creative, do this stuff, if there's no one to be creative to, there's no one pushing up, there's no one making runs, there's no one running in behind. Who can they be creative to? So yeah, I think this is a frontline issue for me as well. So we're going to take that in, but conclude it for me. I think, yeah, that's the main thing. It was a front line is individual quality, individual players, in my opinion, especially in our front line. I didn't get time to see what Willock and our substitutes and that done, but Voltemada, Gordon, Elanga had a horrendous showing. And we have to improve. They have to make runs in behind. They have to do more. They have to take on their man, make things happen. They have to make themselves an option. So that would be my main thing as well. Kind of going forward is, we can keep saying it's the 4-5-1. It's the structure. It's the same structure against Everton. But our forwards went forward. They just didn't do that against Sunderland. They didn't make runs. They didn't make crosses. They didn't dribble. They didn't pass. They didn't shoot. They didn't do anything. Literally, we just read the individual stats. They didn't do anything. So that's where we are with that. So we're gonna talk. We're gonna move on to Fulham. Before we do that, let's catch up with the chat as well. I'm gonna do, as you guys know, obviously we started doing the transfer stuff, so we're gonna do a little bit of we're gonna keep doing the scouting profiles kind of going forward as well on these players. Adnan Ali, God bless you, says 4-5-1 and we can't pass or have no idea what Tonali is good at. 4-2-3-1 makes way more sense. For me, it's again, I don't know if you missed it, Adnan, I've been here from the beginning, but for me, it's not the structure, it's not, I think it's an individual thing. I think it's an individual player thing. At the moment, it's our front line. The onus is on our front line. This is the same structure, the same team that beat Everton away 4-5-1. And with just a couple personnel changes, really. And the main difference, we just showed it on the passing map, average player positions, heat maps, individual stats. The main difference was the performance of our front three. That was the main difference. Midfield did their job, our fullbacks did their jobs, our centre backs did their jobs what they could, with no outlet from our front line. That's an individual player thing, in my opinion. Aaron says, I do think a change of structure allows us to be more creative. I want our 4-4-2 pressing structure back on the front foot, pressing from the start, forcing turnovers. Would you want that for every game, Aaron? Let me know, because I think part of the reason why we've set up like this is to avoid injuries, which we've done so far. We've been unlucky that mainly all of our injuries have been in our back line. It's not unusual though. It's to all of our older players, Trippier, Kraft, Burn now. Burn obviously it's an impact injury, to be fair to him. But you know, we're literally in 4 competitions, and if we're pressing and fighting every game, we're going to risk injuries. We're going to burn ourselves out. Aaron says, I do have sympathy with Tonali because he's clearly tired and he's been putting fires out all season for us. And it's been generally very, very good. William, God bless you, says, when we win, it's Eddie. When we lose, it's the players. Well, no, I don't know I don't know what time you came in, William, but I did spend literally last hour and 13 minutes comparing our structure, our formation, and our data and our stats compared to our away trip to Everton. Because Eddie Howe said in this press conference, he set up against Sunderland the same way he set up against Everton. And the key difference, well, we won 4-1, but the key difference is, and I showed it from the passing maps, the average player positions, the heat maps, the main difference in performances is the front three. The front line in Sunderland collapsed in on itself. It was, we had Gordon spent more time in his own half than he did in the opposition half. Not too dissimilar from Elanga and Voltemada, which is in stark contrast to what happened when we played Everton, when those guys were in advanced positions. And you saw the data quickly switch and be very much different in terms of passing, shooting, goals, assists, all those things went up. So it's for me, it is an individual player thing for this, in this sense. Because how have we set up in the same way against Everton, win 4-1, do against Sunderland, and we lose 1-0 in an own goal? So, that's my thing. Adna says, don't you think Everton attacked us though, and Sunderland played on the flanks? Yeah, so every team sets up differently. And okay, Sunderland played on the flanks. That means then there's gaps. They have gaps in behind. You say to Gordon, they're attacking the flanks. You know that there's space in behind. When they do that, run in behind. Gordon didn't do that. Elanga didn't do that. They didn't do that. In fact, Lewis Hall and Livramento spent more time in the opposition half than either Elanga or Gordon did. So how is our fullback spending more time in advanced areas than the actual frontline players? The whole idea of our fullbacks pushing up is so our forwards can tuck in and be more central and be in front of the goal. They didn't do that. Adrian says it was on how to change the front three in game. He did, I think. He put on, after 60 minutes, he put on Barnes for Gordon. He put on Wissa after 75 minutes. He put on Murphy after 60 minutes. They perked up a little bit before going down again. Adrian says Elanga should have been hooked after half an hour. Aaron says, I do think we have no choice, even if it's to the detriment of injuries at this point. We don't have the coaching, in my opinion, to control the ball as we should in games. We win by pressing and being aggressive. If it's to the detriment of injuries at this point, we don't have the coaching, in my opinion, to control the ball. Yeah, I disagree, Aaron. I do disagree. I do disagree because we're clearly controlling the ball in our midfield areas. We just read, Miley, at least in his own half, or two games in Sunderland and in Everton, get 100% success rate in his own half, 90% accuracy in the opposition half. Not too dissimilar stats for Bruno Gomes, Tonali, and others. We're not great, we're not amazing, but in terms of keeping the ball, they're doing fine. But if they've got no outlet, nowhere to go forward to, we collapse in on ourselves. We invite more pressure. We invite the opposition to win it, to come against us. Williams says Elanga can't keep the ball at his feet. He looks like fumbles the clown out there. Yeah, it could be a confidence thing, to be honest. Big up to you, Jun. Good to see you, Juniesta. God bless you. Good evening, Philip, and the chat. Good to see you, Juniesta. Adnan Ali says Hall and Gordon don't play together, but good point by running and countering. Sorry, Adnan says Hall and Gordon don't play together, but good point by running and countering. But Sunderland are fast and run non-stop. We have to keep on running. We've got to keep on doing that. Honestly, if Sunderland can do it, we got to do it as well. Janiesa says, I think Howe's teams are incapable of controlling games with the ball, but we used to control the ball out of possession before this season. Yeah, I think we are capable, but if our front line again keeps on collapsing on itself, it makes it a little bit more difficult. Adrian says Phil's got his work cut out defending Eddie Howe, but hopefully defending Newcastle. For me personally, I don't feel I'm attached to any one manager. It's always for Newcastle. I do think Eddie Howe is the best manager at the moment for Newcastle, and there's criticism to share. We're going to talk about Fulham in a moment because I did some stats. But when for the guys that have seen the stats that we read for Sunderland, where the most dismal stats are for our front three players, those individual stats. Like, I'm hoping that someone can tell me why, when our fullbacks are doing their jobs, they're pushing up as well as defending. Our midfielders are doing their job, at least in terms of their passing, their overall recovery, their tackling, their off the ball stuff. They're doing what they can to push up and getting around players. But our front line refuses to take on the man, to run with the ball, to carry the ball, to cross, to shoot, to make runs in behind. I don't think that was Eddie Howe's plan to do that. He didn't tell Gordon to do that. So, right? I don't think he told him to do that. So that's why I feel like it's an individual thing, in my opinion. Janessa says, used to control the games out of possession really well in the past. Yeah. Queen of Heart, good to see you. God bless you. Good to see you as always. Good evening, Philip and the chat. Eddie's time is done. Tactics are all the same. The subs, just the same. Opposition know what we do before we have done it. Not good enough. Fair play to you, Queen of Heart. If you ever get a chance, if you do get the chance, rewind the show. Let me know what you think, because we did discuss that a bit. Aaron says, game management before this season was good. I don't know if it's because Trippier is missing, but we used to slow the game down and use the dark arts. We don't do it anymore. Yeah, I think Dan Byrne talked about that we've been, because we're a better team. Now, he thought that we should go back to the dark arts, but part of the reason why we're not doing it is because we've got a better team. I think the main thing is individual players, but we'll keep on talking about it. We'll keep on mentioning it. As always, guys, God bless you. Good to see more people coming in. Please do remember to like, share, and subscribe. Let's move on to Fulham. Let's put on some of that stuff going into the Fulham game as well. I've went 20 minutes overtime for the... it's not surprising, though, the Sunderland game as well. But because we've done a little bit on Fulham before, it's kind of a bit of a summary that I want to go through in terms of what Fulham are and how they play. Let me put you guys on here so I can see the chats as well. Right. In fact, let me take this off so I can see what they're doing. So we'll just get a brief overview of Fulham. We'll go to as well. So let me take that off. Right. So Fulham. Attacking style of play, attacking style. They're progressive. They're progressive passing and directness. So progressive passing. It's interesting about Fulham, what Marco Silva's trying to do. So all those teams don't always dominate possession. They average about 50%. They prioritize purposeful forward progression. So they've done that in 2023, 2024, 25 seasons. And obviously they're taking it into this game as well. So getting the ball forward is what they want to be able to do. Build up play. Their centre backs often split very, very wide, kind of to expand the opposition as well. So that kind of it's also a bit of a deterrent against high pressing teams. Allowing the goalkeeper to act as a deep passing option, but Leno's pretty decent on the ball. They utilize and penetrate passes that often bypass a double pivot to find on-rushing fullbacks. So you're going to look out for. I forgot the gentleman's name. They got Anton Robertson, but they also got the other player that they used to play for Tottenham. I forgot his name. You see them going up. Direct play. The team regularly plays directly onto the front line. The centre forwards, Jimenez, I don't know why I got Mitrovic there. Jimenez and others drop into link play while the number 10 moves wider to clear central spaces, or something that goes out wide a little bit to kind of cause overloads on the flanks. Right. Speaking of the flanks, wide rotations and wing play. So on the left side focus, there is a heavy focus on rotations. We'll look at the data on that to maximize the overlapping. And sometimes they have 3-4 players on the left and or the right hand side, where the number 10 will join in. Anton Robinson. So players like the left back Anton Robinson, players like Alex Iwobi and the number 10s, whoever it is, Andreas and others, or Iwobi, are coached to move inside to create spaces. Robinson advances and crosses. The right-hand side balance, the right side winger. Traore, who's on the right side? I think it's Traore, really holds the width and uses 1v1 ability at the right back. So they want to be able to get our fullbacks. But Sessegnon, thanks for that, Iniesta. Thank you for that. That's it. Sessegnon. Every time I've watched him, he's had a decent season. Typically more reserved. No, where are we? Holds the width. Yeah, so the wingers holds the lit 1v1 ability. Castagna and Tete is typically more reserved, which helps us in the back shuffle across to form a conservative back three when they're kind of attacking. Defensive approach. So compactness and mid block, right? So structure. So without the ball, the team maintains a back four, often shifting between a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-4-2, which is the formation that a lot of people here want to play. Dropping back to defend alongside the centre forwards. They have a mid block preference. Silva prefers a mid block, which we struggled a lot last season. We're doing a bit better this season. Defending around the halfway line. The initial focus is on the 4-4-2 to cover central areas. Press and trap. Fulham aim to force the ball out wide. That's a big thing for them. To use a touchline as a press and trap. The closest winger is aggressive to jump, and fullbacks are happy to press out of the line. The double pivot, Paulinho Reed or not Paulinho Reed. It's Lucas and I forgot the other gentleman. We'll get on him in a minute. It's crucial for tracking narrow runs and maintaining central compactness, but also crucial for their counter-attacking play as well. High press. When pressing high, the aim is still to force the ball out wide to an eventual trap, with the midfield unit forming a new central trap if the ball is worked back inside. And they've got a number of also really attacking wingers. I think Chukwueze and Kevin, who caused us all sorts of trouble the last time he came out here as well. Iniesta mentions, Harry Wilson is, that's it. Harry Wilson is the man in form. We need to watch out for him, says Iniesta. Berger, that's it. Berger. My apologies, Burge. Is their man in the central areas as well. So what I done here is I went on up to analysts and I got a number of data from Fulham and for Newcastle. And I did some comparisons in terms of how they kind of match up to each other so far in this season, data-wise, and where they're at. And it's some interesting reading, to be honest with you, as well. And it helps us to carry on where we are from the Sunderland game, some of the stuff that is interesting for me as well. So core style, Fulham's identity. So that when we talk, this kind of matches up with the earlier profiling. Fulham have that passive mid block. So they have a passive mid block that aims for possession, but struggles to press or advance. So constantly push back to 39.8 meters start distance. So start distance from from their box into the pitch. So they want to be possessive, a possession based team that can press upwards, but they're often pushed back, right? And their start DDA and their PPDA. So when they're able to press, so they end up being so they typically end up pressing after the team gets nearly 14 passes. So they're, even though they're trying to be possessive, they're trying to press where they can. For whatever reason, inevitably they kind of get forced into a low block, and their midfield is quite passive or porous to some extent. In comparison to Newcastle have a more active mid block. I know this is a big controversy in terms of our mid block and where we're doing it, but this is how the data pans out for Newcastle compared to Fulham. We pressure much higher, so around 11.2 ppda, so nearly 3 more than them, and maintain a better field position, so 43.9. So we're actually pressing higher than Fulham typically. So we are in the mid block, but we are further up the pitch, and we tend to have a higher press and more intensity compared to Fulham themselves. Now, offensively, Fulham have a low volume yet elite finishing. They create low quality chances generally, so about 17.45 xG so far this season. But it's saved by the unsustainable literally world class conversion rate. I think they scored more goals than us. They've got nearly 17.5 xG, but they've got like 23 goals or something like that, 25 goals. I think they've got 2-3 goals more than us, right? So they're overperforming their goal ratio by plus 5.55. And we've got to have a warning sign because Newcastle have been unlucky in games, for sure, in my opinion. Compared to Newcastle, offensively, so Newcastle have a high volume, average finishing compared to Fulham. So we create high volume, so we create high quality. We create high quality. We create high quality of chances, 21.38 xG so far, but finishes them at a typical rate of minus 0.38 conversion rate. Not too much, but it's but a little bit. We're underperforming a little bit, but not by much. Not by much. So offensively, we're a bit more. We have an edge, but our finishing is not, in terms of volume, but our finishing is not up to what Fulham are doing at the moment, even though Fulham are creating low quality chances. Now, defensively, Fulham are structurally leaky. They allow opponents into their box frequently, about 68.9% of the time. So Newcastle are expected to spend some time in Fulham's box, hopefully, and they concede a lot of shots. Now, Newcastle compared to Fulham, structurally, we're better at defending the box. So we've got 65.28 shots are conceded in our box, so about 3-4% better than Fulham. That's probably helped by the fact that we've got an active mid-block compared to theirs. Biggest flaw. Fulham's biggest flaw is that they have an unstable goal total. Goal scoring is unsustainable because it's really low quality volume of. They have low volume of goal shots they create, and based on individual brilliance. Our biggest flaw is that we have unstable defense. So we have a highly inefficient defensive unit or goalkeeper. So we concede far more goals than expected. So meaning that what it means by that is structurally, the way we're set up is good. We're supposed to concede way less goals. So we've reduced teams to limited opportunities on our goal. However, we're conceding by at least nearly 4 goals more than what we should be conceding. Whether that's a goalkeeping problem, which we know contextually it has been, and especially the last 5-10 minutes, as pointed out, or set pieces. I think it's not even just the timing for me. I think it is a set piece thing, or some of the goalkeeping errors that we've seen as well, or just teams getting lucky. That Voltemada own goal, that crazy Romero overhead kick. Some might say it's a goalkeeping error. It went past like 3 or 4 Newcastle players. Stuff like that is really kicking us in the teeth as well. So, just in conclusion of that, let me take this down quickly. Just in conclusion of that, the data shows Newcastle is the superior tactical team compared to Fulham. We create better quality chances and are being more stable defensively. However, Fulham have an incredible finishing ability, which allows them to score more goals than Newcastle, despite their flawed system. So we need to. I think goals change games. We always say, and we need to make sure that we're clinical going into this game. We already know that they're a decent side, Fulham, but they're not the greatest side. And I think goals do change games. I think that's going to be a big part of what this game's going to be about as well. So let me know what you guys think so far of all of that. Hearing that data, hearing that information, our active mid block compared to their passive mid block, us kind of being a more higher pressing team. We create the more chances, and by volume, our defense, the way it's structured, should reduce and limit the number of goals that we concede. But there is certainly individual errors, goalkeeping errors, and just being unlucky, really, where we're conceding more goals than we should have. Do you guys agree with that? How do you see this game pan out, really? So, whilst you guys are doing that, let me put on a tactical board against Fulham and see where we can get. But let you guys let me know where do we win this game? Where do we win this game? What can we do? What changes need to be made? Who would be your who would be in your lineup? I haven't even. I'm going to be doing this with you guys as I'm getting along. I've been. The front line. I have to do this again. It's not working. So let me just reload it. Just looking at the data of our front line for the Sunderland game and individual games and everything else has really I don't know if the word is put me off, but Aaron says, going to be tough to predict the lineup for this one. Where do we go from here? All right, so let's do it together then and see where we're at. Because it's going to be interesting. Does Howe ring the changes? I have a feeling that he will, but he talked a little bit almost like he's going to still have to play certain players because he's got no choice. So I think he still has to play Voltemada because Wissa's just not fit. Wissa is just not fit. Not yet anyway. Can you guys see that? Yes, you can. So that's Fulham in their 4-2-3-1. Let's push them up a little bit. Let's get Newcastle out here. England. Premier League. Who would you guys play? I probably won't make up my mind until who's this? No, wrong team. Arsenal. Jeez. No, not Arsenal. How do I take them off? Select team. Go back. We are not playing Arsenal. Newcastle. All right. So this is the team that played against Sunderland. Does Eddie Howe give them a chance to redeem themselves? I don't think so. I think he brings the changes where he can anyway. He is going to be limited. So Wissa, Gordon's already there. Barnes, Jacob Murphy with his funny knee, Willock, uh, Ramsey. Okay, right. Front three is going to be the big question. I've been talking a lot about them, haven't I? So, what we're going to do about the front three? Like I said, Voldemort almost by default because this is just not fit. I think starts not because necessarily he had a great performance. He didn't. He's going to have to play until we get Wiss up to speed. Really, um, Gordon's for me is off, and Barnes is on at this stage. Though you do have to think about the opposition when you're choosing these teams. I would love Gordon to play and get himself in kind of one-on-one, test his pace against Tete, who is a really good player. I don't think Tete, for instance, would mind not Gordon, Barnes, because Barnes isn't going to like this kind of being, kind of dribbling the outside type of thing. That's why Hall, what Hall does in terms of getting advanced areas is going to be so, so pivotal, so, so important. So I would want to play Gordon, but maybe some of you still give him a try. Maybe I don't know. Ilanga, does Ilanga play by default almost because there is an issue with Murphy's knee. There is an issue with Murphy's knee. Here's why I'll stick with Ilanga, and you guys might not like it. So it's partly because, and Eddie talked about Murphy's funny knee. Murphy might not start, but Murphy hasn't been great either, to be honest, in terms of ball carrying. The Burnley game, I think Willock had a decent game. So this is where I'm kind of looking at the midfield here. There's a question on whether Bruno or Tonali get rotated out. I think Bruno stays, even though he needs to be rotated at some point fairly soon. And someone out of our midfield gets rotated out. I think why I want to play Willock is because he did really, really well, especially against Burnley, in connecting with Livramento and with Ilanga in these areas, where he'd either fit these gaps here and give Livramento or Ilanga the opportunity to either stick on the outside or go inside and start creating chances on that right-hand side. He's really, really good in supporting the play. So even if Livramento gets up here, Ilanga's here, Willock gets it in terms of being in these positions here. So I am going to play Willock, and it's a choice for me between Tonali and Bruno. For me, and at this stage, is it going to be Miley or is it going to be Bruno? The reason why I'm going to play, or Joe, is going to be, it's not Bruno. Is it going to be Miley or is it going to be Joe Linton? And you guys aren't going to like this. I'm already feeling the chat, but I'm going to stick with what I'm going to stick with. But I'm going to be flexible to what you guys are saying, but I'm going to just hear my idea. The reason why I'm going to play Joe Linton, is not because of his necessarily offensive capabilities and what he does here. But the big reason is that if I'm playing Willock and I've got Hall, especially Hall going in these advanced positions to help Barnes to kind of either get into these inside areas where Barnes prefers to be in, Joe Linton is absolutely key in these half spaces in protecting. And I fancy Joe Linton against Wilson in these areas. Now, some of you would say Miley can do this, and you would be absolutely right. Miley can do this, and there's probably still a strong chance that he plays. But Joe Linton was rotated out for a reason. I think part of this is this game. And I can see Joe Linton playing to cover for Hall and to cover for Barnes to allow them to get into these advanced areas. And also kind of that his experience and his seniority. And the fact that also Joe Linton and Willock have a good understanding as well Willock is going to spend a lot of time getting into these advanced areas here. So sometimes you'll see Willock also, as you saw him in the Burnley game, getting into these positions to be an option for Barnes and for Hall as well. So you'll see him either advancing like this or getting into the area like this, alongside Voltemada, making sure he's not by himself, and being really, really important in connecting of play and being that outlet, which allows the likes of Joe Linton and others to screen the back line and make sure that they're not by themselves. So that's a big reason why I would have this front three, in my opinion. Barnes, who Burn obviously is off because he's unfortunately the unfortunate injury he's had. Where's Shaw? And Shaw will be on the left hand side. Would it be Shaw or Chow on the left hand side? Probably Shaw. I think in Burnley it was Shaw. I think, and part of me why I think Bruno plays that he would hate to miss this game. But I do want him to be rotated. There is a chance that Bruno is rotated and Miley plays. So I don't mind this, whether it's Willock, Miley, and Joe Linton, because he's still got that experience and that seniority, right? And Miley is the better athlete between Bruno and the rest of them. And you got that. This could happen, to be honest. I think Bruno would be. I think Bruno would want to be. We need Bruno in this game. We need to ensure that we get to the semi-final. And I think I see Bruno playing in this game. And Ramsdale keeps his place for now. Both him and Pope have been average, but Pope's still got a muscle injury according to this anyway. So let me know what you guys think of the starting lineup before we kind of break things down a little bit further. I'd love to get you guys' views. Good to see more folks coming in. God bless you all, guys. And please do remember to like, share, and subscribe. William says, I just want Barnes on the left. You got that? Hell, fly Miggy back if we have to. Miggy's loving Atlanta, man. Aaron says Ramsdale. He's got Ramsdale, Tino, Chow, Shaw, Hall, Bruno, Miley, Ramsey. Okay, Bruno, Miley, Ramsey, Murphy, Wissa, and Barnes. You got them starting. So you got Wissa starting. If you think it's healthy enough, there could be. Want to see Shaha and Alex Murphy come on and give Wissa 50, 60 minutes if he can do it. Yeah, I know that you rate Shaha still. Geniesa says Eddie will go full strength in my opinion. Absolutely, he will. I think he'll pick this one. Ramsdale, Tino, Shaw, Chow, Hall. Yeah, Bruno G, Tonali, Joe Linton. Yeah, I can see that. Murphy, Voltemada, Barnes. Okay, yeah. Let me see that. So if I put, let me go back to that. So Giniesta's got, maybe Elanga doesn't. So you've got Tonali staying, Joe Linton, Barnes. Yeah, can see that. Got myself out of it. Here we go. No, not there. What am I doing? All right, so how do I get myself back on the screen? I can see my screen, just can't see you guys. Here we go. Right, no. Thought I was there, now I'm not there. So just a moment, folks. I've lost myself. Why have I lost myself? I can't get myself back on. Okay, sorry. Lost myself for a minute. Now I'm back. Adrian says, with VDB out, Big Nick will be required for his height. Yeah, absolutely. Aaron says he is knackered. I don't think we can play him tomorrow unless he's off the bench. I'm just going off of Eddie Howe's press conference, and it feels like Eddie Howe knows he can't be playing him, but he's got no choice. I don't think It's not clear, and it's difficult with so many games. They can't get the training in with Wissa, and is like he's even in the Sunderland game. He came after the last 15 minutes, similar kind of minutes for I can't remember the game prior to that. So I just don't think Wissa's ready. Jake says, "Yay, some tactics." Absolutely, thank you, thank you, Jake. Geniesta says Fulham got a tall team with Diop, Anderson, Berger, Lukic, and Raul. Yeah, they are physically strong. So I also think Joe Linton and Voltamada starts. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Jake says Ramsdale, Hall, Shaw, Chow, Tino, J7, Bruno, Miley. Yep, Barnes, Wissa, Murphy. So you guys got Voltamada resting for sure. I wouldn't be surprised with J7. I think J7 definitely plays, Aaron. Chow left. So Chow left, Shaw right. Did that happen against Burnley? I'm trying to remember how we did it against Burnley. Aaron says that Shaw played on the right side. Okay, so I'll change that. Shaw right for the world passes, says Jake, absolutely. He says Genie going full strength. Rotation is nice. We need to get to the semi-final. We have to get to the semi-final. Mighty Mag says, "Hey Philip, can you see Target coming back?" Yeah, it was mentioned in the Iron newspaper. I think we're gonna go all out to get a left back or a left centre back in. But if we can't, we do have to recall him because we had no one there. Burn has been not burnt out, to be honest. He got injured. We've got no cover at left back. So yes, but not because we're not. It'll be like when there was a break emergency glass. That I think that would be the case for Target, and I think they're just preparing us for that because we can't control what other clubs. If other clubs want to hold on to their players, and they want to hold on to their players. Yeah, absolutely, Jake. It's absolutely priority. So okay, a lot of you. Let me just go. I'm gonna touch on what you guys said. So Tonali, Gomeres, Joe Linton. Okay, so Fulham are going to be very, very big on this in terms of being, and you have to watch out for this Chukwueze character. Very, very good on the ball. Very, very good dribbler. You're going to see a lot of these. They're going to be trying to advance. And let me bring this back on a moment so I can. So there's an easier way of doing this. They're going to be doing a lot of. They're going to be trying to hit us on the flanks, and like you guys mentioned, big players. All right, here we go. So Bassi, and I've seen them go. Sometimes they leave three at the back, but sometimes they do leave the two at the back if they're really looking to push up as well. You'll see Chukwueze, Robinson push up. It will be in these type of situations to try and create these triangles. Hold on, let me make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, you can see that. To try and create these triangles between them. As they did, if you guys remember the goals that they scored, I think it was Kevin actually that came on that side, but they're going to try and get themselves in these 1v1 situations. Emil Smith-Rowe is also getting into the goals. Wilson was being mentioned. So you see Jimenez probably trying to keep Chow busy with either Rowe here, Wilson in the back as well. And you have, you see them pushing up in these ways with Berger or Berg. Sorry, apologies for that. Adding that screen, so you kind of they've still got five sort of in the back here with the two pivot screening, but it will be adding that kind of availability to make the pass. You'll have with the whole purpose of trying to overload our flanks here, with either Robinson maybe even going in behind to try and get the ball, to try and cut back into players, using his pace, using his ability, or you kind of adding these decoy runs to get Livramento out the way and get Chukwueze in these type of situations where you can get on one with a Chow, or even if Livramento stays where he's at, and put us under pressure. So it's going to be a very, very key. So Tonali is going to be very, very key and Murphy, and kind of add in some defensive discipline. And this is kind of, maybe this is where I see the kind of the first. You guys let me know. But Eddie Howe will be thinking about this, and Eddie Howe mentioned that now that Eddie Howe has declared this publicly, that Murphy's got a funny knee. If you're Marco Silva, you're going to tell Robinson, you're going to tell Chukwueze, every opportunity you get, test this guy's knee. Keep running past him. Keep pushing him back. Keep forcing him to have to run back to himself, like on himself. He might not be able to do it. And then at the because our whole aim is, can we exploit the space in the back, right? Because Bassi himself has got pace. And this is part of the reason why I don't think Murphy plays, guys. I don't think Murphy plays. I think it's worth sticking with. I do think it's worth sticking with Elanga. I say that with hesitancy, because at least should the ball drop to him in these situations, we've got a player who can carry the ball into these spaces, right? At the moment, because look, we've got limited options here. No one in the front line at the moment is performing well. We've got limited options, but I am more. Eddie Howe's announced that Murphy's got a funny knee, and Marco Silva will take note of that, and that's why that's where I have trouble kind of keeping Murphy in that front line at the moment. Let me know what you guys think. But they're going to be tested. A lot of athleticism here: Robertson, Chukwueze, and then you'd have these kind of overloads that you're trying to do on that left side. Similarly, on the right hand side, Fulham will be trying to work the ball. Tete is a little bit. He will get into these advanced areas. Wilson's been scoring a lot of goals as well. You see their centre back line dropping, again, an opportunity here, because if we want to hit them on the counter, Anderson doesn't have this type of pace that Bassi has. So I wonder if we can exploit them on that left hand side. So Robinson back here. And this is the part where I hesitate to, if I were to play counter-attacking football, or at least hit them on the counter, I hesitate a little bit to play Barnes, because he does have the pace, to be honest, to hurt Anderson, but not as much as Gordon, for instance. That'll be my kind of thing. But Berger, let's obviously, you're going to have, he's not an advanced player, but Wilson, who's, as mentioned, is on fire currently. I think he's got like 5 goals in 8 games, something along the longest lines. He's going to be causing these overloads, trying to get in behind. So Joe Linton being able to screen, to be able to protect the back line is going to be absolutely key. Shaw out wide, you don't want him too out wide. You want him in these positions here, and kind of get into these 1v1 situations. You want to avoid him being in too many 1v1 situations as well. I think that's the worry here in terms of Shaw one-on-one with Wilson. Joe Linton's going to have to do a lot of protection here for Hall, but also for Joe Linton. Hall is way better in his one-on-one duels than before, in my opinion. But if you're Marco Silva, you're going to probably hope that Murphy plays and test his knee, and you're going to get Chukwueze and Robinson in one-on-one situations with him that way. But similarly, if you're on the right-hand side, you're going to try and isolate Shaw where you can. Maybe put Jimenez on him and try get Jimenez to play off Wilson and get out the back. That's where Joe Linton's defensive attributes are going to be absolutely key. So why I wouldn't play Ramsey just yet at the moment in time. But let me know what you think of that so far. But what can Newcastle do? Well, what can Newcastle do? That's going to be the key part here. Let me just rewind this for Fulham. Here we go. What can Newcastle do? Let me know what you guys think so far. A few folks in the chat there. Something. Oh, has Bassi gone to AFCON already? So who's going to be in defense for them? He will be too. Thank you guys. Good looking out. So who'd replace them? Okay, Juniesta says Cuenca or Giop will replace Bassi and Lukic will replace Iwobi. Okay, let's thank you. This is why I have the best chat ever. I forgot all about AFCON. I think if we had that would go to AFCON, I probably wouldn't have forgotten. So let's go for it. Lukic and Cuenca. Sessegnon's injured as well. Here we go. So Lukic for, whereas, come on, stop, behave yourself. Lukic for, hey, I said behave yourself. Lukic for Iwobi, solid player, but he's not as creative as Iwobi, but solid player. Defensively, very, very solid. And Cuenca for Bassi. Who knows anything about Cuenca? Does he have pace? Is he athletic? Is he young? Is he old? Because I think these one-on-one duels are going to be important. Well, they're going to lack a little bit of creativity at this stage without Iwobi. So that's something. If it's Lukic, and I think Lukic is more on the left with a burger like this, right? Thank you guys. Thank you for the heads up. Voldemort is too far forward. Geniesa says, makes sense playing Ilanga to exploit the space vacated by Robinson, who always bombs forward. Yeah. People might not like it, but we're going to, because of his performance, but I think he should get the point at this stage. And hopefully this is an opportunity for him. And this is why, I don't know what you think, Geniesta. If you saw the Burnley game, this is why I was in favor for Willock playing. I'll put him on in a moment. Because I think Willock connects Livramento. Well, Livramento does this by himself really well, but he connected really well with Livramento and Elanga against Burnley. And I know it's Burnley, but if they didn't do it then they'll never do it. Mighty Mike says, Philip, if we get beat tomorrow in Chelsea, how would we see the owners taking it? They won't be happy, that's for sure. Cup competitions are important. And I look at the Chelsea game without looking too far ahead. We have to get points in that game to keep ourselves in the conversation. If we get beat off Chelsea, then we are out for that period of time. We're out of the Champions League conversation, in my opinion. We'll be like 9 points behind and 7 points behind and stuff like that. So it's important not to. And there probably will be extra pressure on Howe to do something about it with the January transfer window coming up. But yeah, I don't think that will happen though. By the grace of God. Aaron says, Philip, it might be time. Wissa on the right, Voltamada through the middle. I would love that, but I'm really concerned about Fulham's left-hand side. And if Wissa is not fit enough just yet, he's going to have to do a lot of tracking back against Robinson and the really tricky player in Chukwueze. And I think Ilanga is going to be very important. Whoever's on that right-hand side is going to be very important in their defensive duties. Has Ramsey played out wide? He prefers the left for sure. And he's kind of sees himself as a box-to-box midfielder. Ilanga is just an outlet. His defensive work is 2 out of 10. I don't. Okay, I see where you're coming from. I'm a bit. I'll give him a little bit more credit. Giniesta says Ramsey's. I was talking to Adrian. Very uncomfortable on that side. Hence the Willock. Hence why Willock have to shift over despite being. And okay, so this goes back to why I think Willock should play. Actually, I think Marco Silva picks 4-2-3-1. Leno, Tete, Anderson, Diop, Robinson, Berger, Lukic, Wilson, King. Oh yeah, King. Where would King play? Let me know. Where would King play? Cuenca, think of Pau Torres. So he's good on the ball. Villa, lanky Spaniard, left-footed and very good on the ball, but not the best in the air. Fair play. Thanks for that, Ginesta. Who did I mention? Who did you mention here as well that I said? Diop, Anderson, Tete, Leno, Willock. That's what I want to talk about. So this is why I think Willock. Uh, I'm going to go back to my setup here, and this is kind of. So I don't think Bruno Barnes. So you guys have got Chow on the left, which makes sense actually. That's how I did play like this. Shaw, Livramento, Tonali. I've got Murphy off. I think Ilanga plays, and I do think Willock plays. I think Willock, because not only is in the defensive duties, but also in kind of going up front. Now Tonali can do this. I'm in two minds here. I really am. I'm in two minds, guys. But this is what I want. I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna go with Willock. Right, for the defensive duties, but also what we saw really, really well a lot is his combinations with Ilanga and Livramento. So we'll get my man over here. Let's advance these guys going forwards. Shaw here, you're going to see him on the ball. You're going to see them in a 4-4-2 out of possession. Berger, Lukic, Wilson, Chukwueze, Rowe, Jimenez. So Shaw's on the ball. Bruno and or Hall, depends how you want to do it, but you're going to see these type of connections. What Willock was really, really good at is getting into these advanced positions, sometimes even making these decoy runs here, attracting the interest of at least even getting behind Robinson, right? Because what Robinson's going to be thinking here, when the ball goes out wide, the problem for Robinson is, do I go out to Elanga? If I go out to Elanga, there's a through ball on for Willock to get in behind like that. And that was happening all a game against Burnley. Or if I stick with Willock, I give Elanga the opportunity here to also run in behind. And you allow Livramento to hang back even, and kind of provide that rest defense. So even if the ball goes back out, goes out, and Fulham have the chance to break, at least you have Livramento here because of the work done by Willock, right? Or even you get Livramento actually inverting like this sometimes because of Willock dropping in here, and you got Elanga actually keeping out wide the space in these areas, and so you got Voltamada now keeping Cuenca busy with Willock ability to have a run in behind Robinson, or and leaving Ilanga in one-on-one situations with Robinson. Chukwueze has to think about, do I go follow Willock? Do I have to worry about Livramento? He's going to have to leave Robinson by himself, or at least draw the attention of Berger, maybe. Berger, who has to come across, leaving space for the likes of Bruno to get in behind as well. So that 4-4-2 setup allows Fulham to have at least 2 or 3 players out wide. But with Willock's presence, it draws more players to that part of the pitch. And so I think Willock's really, really good at that. Now, it's not to say that Tonali does that, but it's not necessarily his role. If Tonali plays, Tonali will probably be more here, and Bruno playing these advanced play positions, which he's done really well, actually. Let me take off this vector thingy majig. Take that off. Here we go. So you get Bruno kind of doing these type of roles, which he's been doing really, really, really well at, with Tonali screening the back four, which could work. So it'll be a close one actually between Tonali and Willock. I think Howe might be tempted to play Willock and save Tonali for Chelsea, to be honest. That is kind of my thoughts about it. Or he could keep the midfield that he had against Burnley, where he had Bruno, Livramento, and Willock. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Joe Linton plays. So I think he provides that sort of area. Now, on the left-hand side, on the left-hand side, and this is where more choices are to be made. On that left-hand side is what we do. So we shuffle over what do you call it? The Fulham defense. And I'll go to the chat in a moment. Berger, Rao, Lukic, Rao. Hold on. What am I doing? Berger, Jimenez, Lukic is here. It'll either be Smith or Wilson. Probably Smith Rowe. With the front two defending like this and providing some cover here. So who's going to be in these advanced areas? So Hall is very exceptional like this. Coming out wide, allowing Barnes to tuck in, get into these areas here, with Voltemada hopefully occupying one of the centre backs, whether it's Anderson or Cuenca. Barnes getting into these areas, and Joe Linton covering the half space just in behind them. Get Shaw here. Maybe Bruno screening the back three here. Livramento, extra support. So making sure that if Fulham do get a break on us, the good thing, I say good thing, even though Fulham are a big team, they're not in this area, at least they're not a pacey team. The main pace is going to come for them with Jaquazi and Robinson, and I think they're going to be looking to do these. If their ball breaks, they're going to try and get these kind of balls out wide or these switch plays, which Anderson's really, really good at. So we have to be careful of that. So there's going to be plays around here, and Hall's going to be absolutely instrumental in either doing these underlapping runs, hopefully getting one-on-one situations of Tete. But Barnes doesn't want to be in these situations, right? Barnes isn't really good at these kind of situations out wide. Barnes prefers to be here with Hall out wide here and Joe Linton joining in. It's partly why I hesitate to join in Barnes, but Gordon just had a really awful game. And I don't see no other option really in playing him. And we talked about playing Joe Linton for his defensive screening. You might have, but you probably have either, and this is again, Willock is really, really good at, is also joining in the play, providing that same kind of cover, attacking option as well, and joining in, either kind of playing alongside the guys. You see him doing this against, like I said, same thing here, but also providing it on the left-hand side and supporting and kind of providing overloads on the side as well, and allowing Newcastle to hopefully be able to be more penetrative. So Barnes, Voltemada, and forcing Fulham to kind of to go back, but also allowing maybe cutbacks, early balls in with the quality that Hall has. Maybe in one-on-one, I even prefer Hall in one-on-one situations of Tete, to be honest with you. But Willock even better because of his ability to kind of to carry the ball forward. It's going to be very, very crucial. And as we talked about earlier, actually even kind of breaking forward. So I see Willock playing here, but let me know what you guys think at the end of the day. I'm really, really keen to get you guys' thoughts. It's a shame, from what I think, it wouldn't surprise me to see Miley. It would be great to see Wissa start, but at the moment, I just don't see it. We're going to need height. We're going to need physicality. It would make it more sense for me if Bruno doesn't play and you have Tonali and you've got some rotation there. You still keep the physicality. But Bruno's is just so key that we've got no choice but to play him. It's going to be a tight game, guys. I do think it's going to be a tight game. But let me know what you guys think. Guys, send in your predictions. I'm gonna read the chats, then I'm gonna conclude the show. But send in your predictions and let me know what you guys think. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about. I do think though, if we got time, because I wanted to see us. If you guys can hang around, brilliant. Because I did want to see us I do think one of our better strengths would be is if Because even though Fulham like to get in the mid block, as we saw from the data, they're quite they're quite porous in that mid block. And I think part of the reason why they're porous is Wilson's really good at going forward, but they're and Rowe as well, but are they as good going forward as they are kind of defending? And they've had a few troubles with that. So Lukic here, Chukwueze, Berger. I do think that with our, it's going to be physically, it's going to be, we'll match each other to some extent, but I do think we have the better players. We need to get our passing game going. Joe Linton, I've got Willock, Voltamada, and Anderson. Bruno, Shaw's here, Charles here, Livramento. I do think that with our pace, especially closer to goal, Elanga's going to be crucial. Willock's going to be crucial. I'm so tempted to keep Gordon, but Gordon's annoying. Gordon is annoying because he'll be really good in these spaces, especially if we can get our attack and our rhythm going. To get Gordon in the, where is he? In these spaces. So I got allergy coming along, or hay fever. I'm not sure what it is. In these kind of spaces here, Baltimore loves to drop deep, but the main thing is to kind of get him on Anderson and occupying these spaces. It won't be Gordon. It will be Barnes. If the game is played in these middle parts like this, I do fancy us, though we have to be really, really careful about the pace of Chukwueze and Robinson. The moment that ball breaks, Robinson's going to look to get beyond the player. Chukwueze is going to look to get beyond the player. Smith Rowe as well, and Jimenez. Like, we can't joke with that. So it's going to be really, really crucial. It's why I prefer Tonali than Bruno in these situations, because Joe Willock's going to spend a lot of time in these advanced areas, and Bruno doesn't have the recovery pace that Tonali has. But Bruno, what he can do in controlling the play is going to be so vital. So that's why I'm kind of umming and ahhing about what would happen. Maybe Willock doesn't play, and maybe what Ginesta said makes sense. Tonali plays, and you just have to have Bruno in these advanced areas. Yes, you just have to have Bruno. We'll have Bruno. We'll probably keep our midfield, so we keep that balance. So that probably makes better sense. But let me know what you guys think. Send in your score predictions. I'm going to read the chats and then conclude the show. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal as always. Tons and tons of chats. Let me get a drink of water. Janessa says Willock was also, my opinion, the best player versus Marseille. He was really good. Playing as a right winger in a 5-4-1 system, he did really, really well. He did really, really well. And I wonder Eddie Howe's regretting not playing him against Sunderland. Mighty Max says, is Eddie one step away from the vote of confidence? And we know what that means. No, I think it's just, for me, it's online hype. And we don't know how good we got it. I honestly think that. Online hype. Adrian says 3-4-2-1. Tino Chow, Shaw, back three, Ramsey, Miley, Bruno, Langa across the middle. Barnes and Willock tucked in behind Voltamada. Yeah, you love that. That makes sense, though. I would want Joe Linton, to be honest. Mighty Max says Spurs would be straight on Eddie back to join them. Absolutely. Mighty Max says, in my opinion, I reckon if Eddie got pushed, he will take some time out. Gosh, you guys have already got his retirement planned. Jay Cress says, Wilson made 23 tackles in 35 games last season. So not a lot of tackles. By the sounds of it, Eddie is safe, for sure. I agree. Mike Max says keep the show running. The chat's on fire. I would love to. I've got to sleep at some point. Jake says, well, everyone from Newcastle to Newcastle, Australia knows Fulham's formation. It looks like a game of personal battles tomorrow. It will be. And I hope we play like, we've got a point to prove, So thank you for sending your predictions. Send in your predictions, guys. I'm going to give mine in a moment. Adrian says 3-1. I hope to Newcastle. Let me know, Adrian. Aaron thinks it goes to penalties. Jake says that algorithm's been good to me tonight. God bless you, Philip. Thank you, Jake. And speaking of algorithm, guys, please do continue to like and share and subscribing, as this allows the algorithm to get out there. Please do keep going doing that. Otherwise, we wouldn't get people like Jake coming on and adding to the show. Jake says 1-1. We win on penalties. However we get it, I'll take it. Jake says that's why I thought we bought him, and the times we do score. I think I missed that conversation. Mike goes for a 2-2. I've not hit a single correct score this season. I'm not sure I have, to be honest. Janessa says Tonali got subbed off early in Derby due to a yellow card. So you're thinking he plays? I think you might be right. Tonali, Bruno, and Joe Linton. It probably makes sense for the balance, though. I think it'd be harsh. Imagine, if he just plays. If Howe just says forget Elanga, forget Murphy, just play Willock out wide. That would be crazy. That would be fun, but it would be crazy. Wow, 21 likes so far, guys. Great stuff. Phenomenal. Thank you. 2-1 win, expecting a tight game. Wow, Chris has gone straight in with a Howe out. For me, he's very much Howe in. Jake says it was about Voldemort Philip being used as a target man. Oh, okay. All right, so let me give my prediction. We talked about it. Fulham being a very strong physical side. They've got some key players out for AFCON. Iwobi is really big for their creative side. But I wonder if Chukwueze guys, is Chukwueze playing? Isn't Chukwueze Nigerian? Let me double check that. Because if Chukwueze isn't playing, it might be Kevin. I might breathe a little bit. Well, Kevin's still good, but Chukwueze's been having a really good season so far. Where's Chukwueze from? Where are you from, sir? Sounds like a Nigerian, sir. Yeah, he is Nigerian. Is he? Let me just double check. Is he going to AFCON? Is Chukwueze going to AFCON? Is going to AFCON. Yes. Thank goodness for that. He's been named. Okay, so no Chukwueze. Okay, one less thing to worry about. Player, excuse me. So that means who's going to be playing instead there? Who's going to be playing instead? If it's not going to be Chukwueze, I think someone. Oh, Kevin. I think it would be Kevin. I think it'll be Kevin. They're going to be missing some players. Here we go, Kevin. All right, so let me give my predictions. See if we've got a few monks in the chat. Mighty Mag says, Philip, quick one for you. Can you see us finish higher than the Mackhams at the end of the season? Of course. Absolutely. 100%. Janice says, that's why I think King gets in. King. With ESR moved to the left. King gets in. So ESR goes left. Kevin off. King's good. I think he'll be good for us. He's going to be about... I see what you mean. I see what you mean, sir. King upset. We're probably up with Jimenez, isn't it? Okay, so maybe Lukic doesn't play. So it's Rowenberger with King up with Jimenez. It's going to be a tight game, folks. The Brazilian Kevin. Yeah, I do think Kevin plays because he's more tricky and pacey. Okay. Wow. Fulham, a tough team, well organized. They've scored more goals than us. They've got 2 points less than us, but they've got a passive, for whatever reason, they've got a relatively porous midfield. We know a little bit about that. But from the data that we've read, that I've shown you earlier, we have a better active mid block than they do. What does that mean for hopefully winning? Is hopefully us taking a more front-footed approach. Hopefully that we had a wake up call from the Sunderland game. The front three is still incredibly hard to pick. I mean, I've even got Willock up here. You know, that's how bad it is. Barnes, Elanga, Voltemada. That front three has to pick up the game. They have to make runs in behind. They have to test Anderson, and they have to test Cuenca on their pace. They have to force Tete and Robertson back. That's going to be absolutely crucial for us. Because in the main, our defense and our midfield will do their job, but they're going to need help from our attack to make their mark. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory. Thank you, Mighty Mag. I appreciate you for that. Bro, Philip, I watched your show. It's always entertaining. Thank you, sir. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory for Newcastle. Hopefully avoid the penalties. Whoever got scoring. I'm going to go for Barnes, and I'm going to go with score from a set piece. Chow from a set piece. But guys, you've been absolutely fabulous. We've gone way over time, but you guys have been amazing in the chat. The chat's been ringing off. Lots of subs, subscribing. No, I don't know about subs. I don't know about that. Yeah, but lots of likes. Appreciate you guys for that. Support the team as we always do through thick and thin. As always, folks, look after yourselves, and God bless, folks.